It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
We all seem to have that inner critic inside our heads. I have a committee, the Itty Bitty Shitty Committee. You know what I mean, that nagging voice or voices in my case that knocks us down and drags us down the road of self-sabotage and self-neglect. A strong, positive sense of self-esteem is your first step to anything you wish to accomplish. Discover who you truly are, that gorgeous, talented, fabulous woman who deserves recognition and unconditional love. You know the most beautiful thing any woman can wear is confidence. Here on Confidence in Bloom with the Divas That Care Network, I, Tina Spolatini, speak with women living in their own self-confidence about who they truly are, how they found themselves, and how they care for themselves. Today I'm speaking with Jody Lynn Craven. For a decade, Jody Lynn Craven has served in a role of a financial advisor, financial educator, creator of abundance consciousness, and the Fluid Money Blueprint. Jody Lynn has over a decade of advanced knowledge, experience, and expertise in modern financial structures and alternatively the mindset and energy behind money. Her work in the energetics behind money, application of alternative money modalities, and her signature process, Fluid Money Blueprint, a step-by-step guide for entrepreneurs who want to learn how to consistently attract money, has brought her into the spotlight among clients all over the globe. Hi, Jody Lynn. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, good. I'm so excited to have you. Money is always a big talk, no matter what the world is going through.
I 100% agree. And I think when it comes to money, we often, people use it as a measuring stick of whether they're good enough or not good enough. And it's usually the second one, the latter.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Jody Lynn, where do you call home?
I live on a farm just outside of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Excellent. Yeah, not too far from me.
Yeah,
what are you celebrating this week?
I'm celebrating having this conversation with you, and I'm also celebrating a giant harvest of our market garden. So we harvested a bunch of potatoes and a bunch of beets, and I get a bunch of stuff to put in my freezer.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I'm just, I'm definitely a city girl. I don't do gardening at all. In fact, I didn't grow up with a garden, but my grandparents grew a garden. And, growing up, I didn't think of it as all that big a deal. But over the last few years, I've learned that it's probably something we should all know how to do.
Yes, 100%. And when... You know what? My husband is the gardener. He's the one that likes to work out in the soil. I grew up on a farm, but, I really had to work through my relationship with work in general, but also living on a farm because there always seems to be something to do. And as, a strong, independent female, I went through this period of my life where it was go, 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 and I would never take care of myself. And then went through like adrenal fatigue and burnout, and I was dying essentially and had to shift those perspectives. So the farm has taught me a lot. And what my husband, teaching me how to grow things, it's been a wonderful experience in abundance in itself. You plant one potato and then it multiplies. And it's just such a beautiful thing watching nature at work.
I've never heard it put that way, but you know what? I could see that that's being true. I used to watch when my tulips would come up in the spring, and I used to think that's just so amazing how we watched it die last year, and here it comes again.
Yeah, just a new season, right?
Yeah, Absolutely. How do you celebrate you and your wins?
Big, loud, and bold. This is a part of what I teach inside of the Fluid Money Blueprint is celebrating everything. Even the stuff, this is when I teach pattern interruption or shifting your mindset, the first thing that I teach my students is to celebrate. And it's so important to celebrate because when we celebrate big and bold, like when we're like, woohoo, and, standing up and down, jumping up and down, screaming, all of that, it wakes up a part of our brain. And then that part of the brain is like, wait, I need to pay attention to whatever is going on right now. So loud, proud, bold is the way that I like to celebrate.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. How would you define self-confidence?
For me, building self-confidence has been a journey. In my early 20s, I was not confident whatsoever. I was like a little shadow in the corner, like just doing her work. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. I had no self-confidence whatsoever. And over my journey, I tried the, fake it till you make it. And that helped a lot. But real self-confidence to me is this inner trust that you build within yourself, this inner knowing of yourself on the deepest levels, and an inner compassion and love for yourself. That's self-confidence to me.
So I'm going to assume that you think it's super important to have.
Absolutely, 100%, because I think that when we're just missing an experience in the world, because if we don't have that self-trust, that self-confidence within ourselves, that's the way that we show up in the world. And then so it's altering your experience of the life that you're living, the people that you're meeting, and it's also altering those people's experiences as well, because you're not showing up as your true, authentic masterpiece that you are, just being who you are.
Oh, I love the way you put that. And you say it with such enthusiasm and passion. I just love that. What are some tips maybe that you can share with our listeners on being more confident within themselves?
Ooh, yes. I think the first one would be to know yourself. Get to know yourself. How much time, the question that I would ask, and I ask of my students a lot and myself, is how much time do you spend with yourself? How well do you know what it is you're thinking or what it is that you believe? When I was young, my dad said to me that you come into this world alone and you leave this world alone. Like you're just the only being that comes into this world and leaves at those times. And he said, so you have to learn to be your own best friend. And I really took that to heart. And my journey with money and what I teach other people was really an extension of that journey of becoming my best friend. So when things are bothering me and I don't feel good about my life or something that's going on in my life, I actually sit down or go for a walk with myself and start asking questions. And I call it Baby Jody, the inside, Baby Jody, what's wrong? And I just ask some questions and I wait for my system and my brain and whatever is going on to tell me. I'm just listening to what the inner me has to say in this moment, whether it's I'm afraid or, I don't feel good enough. And the second tip that I would give is stop the judgment. Start treating yourself like that best friend. If you've ever had a best friend, which I hope all of you that are listening have had a best friend, but when you go to your best friend, when you are at your darkest moments and you think that you are the worst, shittiest person in the world, your best friend does not agree with you and say, yep, you are dumb. You're an idiot. You're not deserving. That's the opposite. They say the opposite of that. They say how much they love you and how much this is a period of time and, it was just a mistake or whatever it was. They hold you up without judgment and they give you that grace. And it's time that we do that for ourselves. So those would be the two big tips I have.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And I've learned this just in the last few years, that if you can't love yourself the way your best friend loves you or the way you love your best friend, you need to do like a lot of work on you.
Yeah.
Because
there's a lot of people
when you're alone,
world.
right?
Yeah.
Like when you're alone, you're alone. And if you don't like being alone with yourself, then you need to teach yourself how to love being alone. I love that. I love the way you explain that. And your dad had a good point, right? We do
100%.
come into this world alone, and we do leave this world alone. Even if we have family and loved ones around us, we're leaving alone, and we need to learn how to be alone because we really don't know where we're going when we leave here.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And
yeah,
there's so many people in the world that don't like being with themselves, that they don't like themselves, or they're afraid to spend that time with themselves because of what they might find. And it's so interesting because I felt those same things too, sitting down with myself and like, what am I going to discover about myself? Like that I'm a bad person or whatever. And then once you get into it and you take that stance of the best friend, of someone who's loving and kind and compassionate to you, and you start doing that to yourself, you start reframing the things that you think are so awful, and they become a thing that you did, a mistake that you made, but it no longer defines you. I typically teach this in the context of money, but it's everything that you've ever done in your life. You're choosing to let it define you in a negative way, or you can choose to say that happened and maybe it was bad or it was wrong, but it doesn't mean me as the person is. I'm a good person, and I got to learn from that experience instead.
That's right. Because, in the end, that's what you would tell your best friend or, perhaps your daughter, sister, mom, right? Our mistakes do not define us.
Absolutely.
I love that. Yeah. What do you feel or believe is the difference between self-confidence and self-esteem?
That's a really interesting question. We use all of these words, and a practice that I have is looking at my own definitions for things. So first, I usually start with Googling it. So that's exactly what I did in this case. So Google says, self-esteem refers to the appreciation and value of yourself. And then your self-confidence is the belief in yourself and your abilities. And the way that I would interpret it for myself is that when I have that appreciation, that compassion for myself, and I value myself, I value the things that I believe, the things that I value, I value, whatever it is about myself, that shifts the self-confidence, which is the outer picture and what people are seeing. Because when you're so rooted in who you are and appreciating who you truly are from that genuine stance, that rooted place, other people see it as you have faith in yourself, see it as confidence. And I guess that's the difference, is it starts on the inside, and then the outside is the self-confidence that blooms from it or blossoms from it.
Yeah, and that's the difference between, say, an introvert and an extrovert, right? An introvert seems to be, shy and quiet from others looking in, but they might have, like, self-esteem and belief in themselves that I'm capable of whatever I want. I just don't have to show it off, right? Or I don't have to show you. I just have to tell you.
Yeah. Even if you take that one step further, because I am an introvert, I love being alone. Now that I learned how to do it, I love being alone. But I am very confident because I am so rooted in who I am. I know who I am, and I love me. I love that I'm always growing, and I appreciate that about myself. And even sitting in silence, when others view me, what they see first is that confidence, because I'm so secure in myself.
That's amazing. And now
Thank
I've
you.
only met you online. You and I have spoken a few times now, and I wouldn't know that you're an introvert, because obviously when you're on Zoom, you have no other option but to talk, right?
Yeah.
But that's all we're doing. I don't see you when you walk into a room. Now, someone who is an introvert, I automatically assume, oh, they're shy. So when they walk into a room, they don't show their confidence. They don't, like, you know, announce to the world that I'm here, my presence must be felt. Whereas often with an extrovert, you know when they walk into a room. They don't, not because
they're loud.
They're often loud, but often they just come in and you can feel their presence because they just make their presence known, right? And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that's an extrovert. Whereas introverts, they don't need to be seen or heard, but they still know their stuff.
Yeah, see, and I would have a completely different definition. See, we're coming back to the definitions. An introvert for me would be somebody that fills up their cup when they're alone. And an extrovert would be somebody who gets their cup filled when they're with other people. So for me, in that definition and living my life, I love being around people. And I know that at some point my cup will be empty and I need to refill it. And to do that, I need solitude.
So let me ask you this then. Do you think like an extrovert or an introvert who has that, you know, premium self-confidence and self-esteem, do you think someone could fake self-confidence, or do you think that it has to be there or it's not? My genuine belief is both. Actually, I think that you can begin to fake self-confidence. So I'll tell you a quick little story. When I first started in the financial industry, actually building my financial brokerage outside of my coaching practice, this was over a decade ago. I was very shy. I was in that place that had no confidence whatsoever. I didn't like myself. And I started building that muscle. But I remember when I walked through the doors of the office where I was going to work, I made a decision that I wanted to show up as confident. I wanted people to see me as somebody who was okay in their own skin. And I sat with that for a minute and sat with what that would feel like, what would that look like to other people, what kind of actions went with that for me. And then I began doing those things. So I began feeling more confident, and people saw me as confident. So I was kind of faking it because still on the inside, I was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. And the reason that I say both is because the people who knew me well and the people who can read energy and who can read you as an individual, when you're faking something, could be confidence, could be anything, they can feel that disconnect or that disharmony within. And it's funny, I love horses. I grew up with horses, and this is what I learned with horses is that they have these energetic receptor sites in their gut. And these energetic receptor sites, what they're doing is they're receiving information from the energy field around them. So you walk up to them and they are reading you with these receptors, okay? And when you're faking, happy or whatever, I'm not scared, put a happy face on, they feel that there is a dissonance or a disconnect in your energy, what you're presenting and what you actually feel like. Well, humans, us, and women have this innate ability just so naturally. Men can do it, but women are really hardwired to do this. So we have the same receptor sites in our own gut. So when we meet other people who are faking anything, we feel it. And when we're faking it, to be honest with you, when I was in those moments of trying to be confident, to fake it until I made it, I felt like everybody would see an imposter or a fraud. And that was the other shoe that I was fearful of dropping. Mm-hmm. Now, isn't that amazing? If we don't know this, right, we don't think of it. We just think that this is what I'm supposed to be feeling. Wow. So how do you think self-confidence and money mindset impact one another?
Oh, Love this question, and I think it rolls in so perfectly to what we were talking about. When you're an entrepreneur, say for example, when you're an entrepreneur and you are feeling this way, you're not feeling confident, you're just trying to fake it until you make it, the person that's sitting on the other side of the desk from you or the other side of the Zoom room while you're making an offering, they're feeling all of this energy. And the best way that I describe it, I always use car salespeople, and there's nothing wrong with them, but I've just met a few really not fun ones where I've walked into the situation and I could feel from their energy before they said anything that they didn't care about me, that they just wanted to get something from me. So our energy is always speaking before we say a word. So now let's loop this back to self-confidence and money. So if your inner self is like, I'm not confident, I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop, the person that you're trying to get into your next program or you're trying to buy your book or whatever it is that you're selling feels that disconnect there and feels like something is off. And they may never say it. They may never even be able to actually consciously pinpoint that they're feeling this. They just feel something is off and they're not ready to move forward with you. So you lose a sale, you lose opportunities. Even if you were to sit down with, a financial advisor, if you're pretending to be confident, but they feel this inner, not confidence, they might not treat you the same way. And it's just all unconscious things that are happening with your energy. So with our energy, we are either pulling money towards us or pushing it away from us. And now when it comes to self-confidence, we will sabotage ourselves because of what we believe with money. So if you think about the amount of money that you have in your bank account or the amount of debt that you have right now, a lot of people have attached a negative attachment to it. But so much so that it means that they're bad. So I don't have enough money in my bank account, so it means that I am a bad person. I am awful in the deepest sense of the word. So if you feel these things about money, my money story says that I'm a bad person, it's going to directly impact your self-confidence. You're not going to feel good about that. So you need to take care of that belief system or at least shift the perspective to, again, that was something I did in the past and there's lots of time to choose a new path instead.
Yeah. I'm kind of, I'm not really sure what the word is. I almost feel almost lost in your words, if that's a true saying, right? I'm imagining when all that talk about, being with someone who you don't quite feel the energy balanced or aligned, you're you almost doubt yourself, right? If you get in business with this person, no matter what the transaction entails, but if you do business with someone that you don't feel aligned with, you go through that conversation in your head. Am I going to get screwed? Am I going to give the money to this person and not get the service that he or she is promising me? Or, it can work the other way as well, right? What if I, can't give her or him everything that they expect from me, and yet they're going to give me, all of them, right? Because it can go both ways, right? Wow. I love the way you put that. It was exactly to the T. I mean, I've been there myself many times, right? And I tend to not follow my intuition a lot of times, and then I regret it, right? I get that feeling where, this person doesn't really know what they're doing, but you know what? I'll give them a shot because I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And then in the end, I'm always, I shouldn't have given them that money.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about what's happened in the past with money in our own individual circumstances, whatever that was, the mistakes that you've made or the decisions that you've made, if all of those things mean that you're bad, that's going to impact your self-confidence. You're not going to feel confident anymore with money whatsoever. And then you might get stuck in this place of there's nothing that I can do because you don't trust yourself to make the right next decision. And it's shifting that mindset and shifting that perspective of, okay, the past was the past. And if I want a new a new future, if I want something different, then I have to consciously create something new in this moment, which means I have to have the confidence within to trust the judgments and the choices I'm going to make next.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. When you started your financial business, did you take like courses on like self-love, self-confidence, like something to get you where you're feeling like I need to, grow myself just a little bit more so that I can help future clients or future students?
Absolutely. I have been taking personal development courses since I was in my early 20s. My dad was a huge, promoter of personal development courses that he had taken. So as soon as I was, 18 years old or 19 years old, I think I waited till 20. He was like, you need to sign up, you need to go through it. So I came by it honestly from learning and personally developing with him. As he learned stuff, he would share it with me, and then going through my own journey. When I started my financial brokerage a decade ago, it was with a company that was huge on personal development, always growing, always learning. So I did more personal development courses, and it really began shifting when I started the coaching business outside of my brokerage. And I started the coaching business because I had questions about money that nobody was answering, the attraction of money. Everything was super vague, just be more positive, just say affirmations. And I'm pretty A-type personality, so I wanted details. So I actually went within and began to channel abundance codes, questions, and keys on what is impacting your ability to attract money. And probably, to be honest with you, I've probably spent $100,000 over the last 5 years in personal development courses and coaches.
Yeah, well, yeah, I totally believe that, because, they say it, right? Every coach needs a coach. And, there's always room for improvement. It doesn't matter, who we are, right? Because none of us are the divine, right?
Absolutely. And I always say it like this: you're not a tree, you are human. So you are constantly evolving, whether you're trying to or not. So if you're not trying to evolve, you are just, resetting and recreating the stuff that you had in the past and deepening the beliefs and the stories that you've told yourself before. If you're consciously working at it, you're consciously evolving, and that's a fluid conversation, because you're not a tree, you're a human. And that's the beauty of life.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you think your fashion style says about you, and do you think it matters?
I do think it matters. I think that, a lot of people, most people will make an impression the first time that they see you. But I know for me, I went through a branding coach and this big rebrand with my coaching business early on. And I remember it was a photo shoot, and she pulled like 4 different looks for me. And I grew up on the farm, so I'm really comfortable in jeans and cowboy boots and a t-shirt. That's what you'll find me in when I'm at home, or a sweater, depending on, the Canadian weather here. But that wasn't the message that I wanted to deliver to the people that I was coaching. I wanted a message of confidence. I wanted a message of education. I wanted a message of luxury, abundance, joy. And I remember sitting in the room, trying all the clothes on, and feeling really uncomfortable, because there was like, tweed jackets. They're beautiful, and I loved them. And they were saying all the things that I wanted to say and showing what I wanted to show. But I felt so disconnected from the clothes in that it wasn't me. And to be really honest with you, the night before the photo shoot, I woke up in like a hot sweat in the middle of the night and just started bawling. And I'm going back to one of the tips that I gave, know yourself. So I sat down with myself and I pulled out my journal and I said, baby Jody, what's wrong? And it was this fear that I had acquired at some point that I have to look like this or my husband and the people that I love right now won't love me. If I change the way that I dress, if I start dressing more, professionally, if you will, or if I started dressing more like I want to feel, that they're going to leave me, they're not going to love me, they're going to leave me, and I'm going to end up all alone and I will die. In that moment, I could see that it was just a story that I had been telling myself, and I did some worksheets and I cleared it, and I felt so much better. So I do believe that, the way that you're showing up and what you're showing up in does matter and does impact the way that people look at you, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Now, I have a question for you that is not necessarily about confidence or style, but I want to know your opinion. What would be your Miss America platform? I don't even think Miss America exists anymore, but if it does and you had to plan it, what do you think you would do with it?
If I had to plan Miss America, or if I had to get on stage and say what I wanted to do for the world?
Let's say both.
Both.
Because, let's face it, it doesn't exist anymore for a reason. So if you had to be, let's say Miss America has to plan next year's Miss America, what would you do? What would you say, and then how would you plan it?
Oh, man, I would have to go to the root intention. What is the intention of this event? Is it for the scholarships that the contestants win or whatever? I assume, I don't really know a lot about Miss America. Is it for the show? Is it for like the dramatization? I think that's what Bachelorette is all about.
But I think that's sort of our next Miss America.
Yeah, is it for the show, and is it about the drama, and just who is the audience? And so if I was to do it again, I would want it to be a celebration of empowering women. And I think that it would be about celebrating their accomplishments and celebrating their creativity and their desire to, whatever it is that they desire to bring to the world. So there would be a bigger portion of what do you want to do for the world? I guess that is judged with more weight. And if I was in that contest, what I would want for the world is to see how individual, how unique, and how wonderful each of your listeners are. Each individual on this entire planet is a masterpiece, and learn to have that love for ourselves. Because when we have that love for ourselves, it immediately changes the world around us and changes the world in tow. So I don't know if that answered you. Yeah.
Well, okay, so here in Canada, we've never really had like that platform. Miss America was, I know they used to have Miss World, I think, at one time, but that was, I'm sure, before my time. But yeah, I think what you kind of hit it, because really everybody sees the world differently, and we all see each other differently. So, yeah, I think you hit it. So just tell our listeners, Jody Lynn, where they can find you.
You can head over to my website. It's jodylyncraven.com, and I have an I and an E in my name, in Jody. I'm a little different. I have all of my services on there. I have a contact me page, and if you want to learn more about the Fluid Money Blueprint, I have a free training that you can access. If you go to the services page, I think even on the very first page, you'll see the button that says sign up for the free training, and it goes through 3 mistakes that entrepreneurs often make when attracting money and how to shift their perspective. And then it goes into the actual step-by-step of the Fluid Money Blueprint and how it helps you consistently attract more money.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This was a wonderful conversation.
Awesome. Confidence in Bloom is a celebration of self-love and a confirmation that you're an amazing, desirable, brilliant, gorgeous, talented woman, even though you may not look like a screen star or a supermodel. The truth is, they don't even look like that. We offer unconditional love to our partners, our children, our extended family, even our pets. It's high time we got out of our own way and learned to unconditionally love ourselves. Chic definitely does come in every shape. So if you want something to believe in, start with yourself. If you'd like to be a guest here on Confidence in Bloom and chat with me, contact me through Instagram at infobloomstyling or by email at tina@infobloomstyling.com or through the Divas through the Divas That Care website.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.